caressed someone's long blonde hair. The women all looked stunning. They wore their own beautiful clothes and had carefully applied makeup. The scents of their perfumes filled the room. If only they could rush him all at once, Naomi thought to herself. There had to be a way to take Casanova down. "As some of you may have already guessed," he raised his voice, "we have a nice surprise for tonight's festivities. A little night music." He pointed to Naomi and beckoned her to come forward. He was always careful when he brought them together like this. He had his gun in hand, holding it casually. "Please play something for us," he said to Naomi. "Anything that you'd like. Naomi plays the violin, and very beautifully, I might add. Don't be shy, dear." Naomi couldn't take her eyes off Casanova. His robe was open so that they could see his nakedness. Sometimes he had one of them play an instrument, or sing, or read poetry, or just talk about their lives before hell. Tonight it was Naomi's turn. Naomi knew that she had no choice. She was determined to be brave, to look confident. She picked up the violin, her precious instrument, and so many painful memories swept over her. Brave, confident, she repeated inside her head. She'd been doing that since she was a young girl. As a young black woman, she had learned the art of acting poised. She needed all the poise she could muster now. "I'm going to try to play Bach's Sonata No. 1, she quietly announced. "This is the Adagio, the first movement. It's very beautiful. I hope I can do it justice." Naomi shut her eyes as she brought the violin up to her shoulder. She opened her eyes again as she placed her chin on the rest and slowly began to tune the instrument. Brave, confident, she reminded herself. Then she began to play. It was far from perfect, but it did come from her heart. Naomi's style had always been personal. She concentrated more on making music than on her technique. She wanted to cry, but she held back the tears, held everything inside. Her feelings came out only in the music, the beautiful Bach sonata. "Brava! Brava!" Casanova shouted as she finished. The women clapped. That was permitted by Casanova. Naomi stared out at their beautiful faces. She could feel their shared pain. She wished that she could talk to them. But when he brought them together, it was only to show off his power, his absolute control over them. Casanova's hand moved and lightly touched Naomi's arm. It was hot, and she felt as if she'd been burned. "You'll stay with me tonight," he said in the softest voice. "That was so beautiful, Naomi. You are so beautiful. The most beautiful one here. Do you know that, sweetheart? Of course you do." Brave, strong, confident, Naomi told herself. She was a cross. She wouldn't let him see her fear. She would find a way to beat him. Chapter 59. Kate and I were working at her apartment in Chapel Hill. We'd been talking about the disappearing house again, still trying to figure out that mind-bending mystery. At a little past 8, the front doorbell rang. Kate went to see who it was. I could see her talking to someone, but I couldn't tell who. My hand went for my revolver, touched the handle. She let the visitor come inside. It was Kyle Craig. I was immediately struck by the drawn and somber look on his face. Something must have happened. "Kyle says he has something you're going to want to see," Kate said as she led the FBI man into the living room. "I tracked you down, Alex. It wasn't too hard," Kyle said. He sat on the sofa arm next to me. He looked as if he needed to sit down. I told the hotel desk and the operator where I'd be until 9 or so. "Like I said, it wasn't hard. Check out the look on Alex's face, Kate. Now you see why he's still a detective. He's hooked on the job, wants to solve all the great puzzles, even the not-so-great ones." I smiled and shook my head. Kyle was partly right. I love my work, mostly because I get to spend time with sophisticated and high-minded individuals like yourself. "What's happened, Kyle? Tell me right now." "The gentleman made a personal call on Beth Lieberman. She's dead. He cut off her fingers, Alex. After he killed her, he torched her studio apartment in West Los Angeles. He set half her building on fire." Beth Lieberman hadn't exactly endeared herself to me, but I was shocked and saddened to hear about her murder. I'd taken Kyle's word that she had nothing worth traveling to Los Angeles for. "Maybe he knew there was something in her apartment that needed to be torched. Maybe she actually had something important." Kyle glanced over at Kate again. "You see how good he is? He's a machine." "She did have something incriminating," he said to both of us. "Only she had it on her computer at the Times. So now we have it." Kyle handed me a long, curling fax. He pointed to some copy at the very bottom of the sheet. The fax was from the FBI's office in Los Angeles. I glanced down the page and read the entry that was underscored. "Possible Casanova," it said. "Very possible suspect. Dr. William Rudolph. First-class creep. Home, the Beverly Comstock. Work, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. Los Angeles." "We've finally got our break. We've got our first-class lead, anyway," Kyle said. "The gentleman could be this doctor, this creep, as she calls him." Kate looked at me, then at Kyle. She had told both of us that Casanova might be a doctor. "Anything else in Lieberman's notes?" I asked Kyle. "Not that we've been able to find so far," Kyle said. "Unfortunately, we can't ask Ms. Lieberman about Dr. William Rudolph, or why she made the note in her computer. Let me tell you 2 new theories that are making the rounds with our profilers out on the West Coast," Kyle went on. "Are you ready for a little outrageous mind trip, my friend? Some profiler speculation?" "I'm ready. Let's hear the latest and greatest theories from FBI West." "The first theory is that he's sending the diary entries to himself. That he's Casanova and the gentleman caller. He could be both killers, Alex. They each specialize in perfect crimes. There are other similarities, too. Maybe he's a split personality. FBI West, as you call it, would like Dr. McTiernan to fly out to Los Angeles right away. They'd like to talk to her." I didn't like the first West Coast theory too much myself, but I couldn't completely discount it. "What's the other theory from the Wild, Wild West?" I asked Kyle. "The other theory," he said, "is that there are 2 men. But they aren't just communicating. They're competing. This could be a scary competition, Alex. This could all be a scary game they've invented." Part 3. The Gentleman Caller. Chapter 60. He had been a Southern gentleman, a gentleman scholar. Now he was the very finest gentleman in Los Angeles. Always a gentleman, though. A hearts and flowers kind of guy. An orangish-red sun had begun its long, slow shimmy and slide toward the Pacific Ocean. Dr. William Rudolph thought it looked visually stunning as he strolled at a leisurely pace along Melrose Avenue in Los Angeles. The gentleman caller was shopping that afternoon, absorbing all the sights and sounds, the hectic flash and cash of his surroundings. The street scene reminded him of something one of the hard-boiled detective writers, maybe Raymond Chandler, had written. California, the department store. The description still worked pretty damn well. Most of the attractive women he observed were in their early and mid-20s. They had just come from the stultifying workaday world of the ad agencies, money managers, and law firms in the entertainment district around Century Boulevard. Several of them wore high heels, platforms, clinging spandex miniskirts, here and there a form-fitting Rolo suit. He listened to the casually sexy rustle of crushed silk, the martial click-click of designer shoes, the sultry scuff of cowboy boots that cost more than Wyatt Earp had earned in a lifetime. He was getting hot and a little frenzied, nicely frenzied. Life in California was good. It was the department store of his dreams. This was the best part, the foreplay before he made his final selection. The Los Angeles police were still stumped and baffled by him. Maybe one day they would figure it all out, but probably not. He was simply too good at this. He was Jekyll and Hyde for this age. As he strolled between La Brea and Fairfax, he breathed in the scents of musk and heavy floral perfumes, of chamomile and lemon-scented hair. The leather handbags and skirts also had a distinct scent. It was all a big tease, but he adored it. It was so ironic that these lovely California foxes were teasing and provoking him, of all people. He was the small, adorable, fluffy-haired boy loose in the candy store, wasn't he? Now, which forbidden sweets should he choose this afternoon? That little twit in red heels, no stockings? That poor man's Juliette Binoche? The provocatrice in the French vanilla and black harlequin print suit? Several of the women actually gave Dr. Will Randolph approving glances as they wandered in and out of their favorite shops. Exit 1, Leathers and Treasures, La Luz de Jesus. He was strikingly handsome, even by strict Hollywood standards. He resembled the singer Bono from the Irish rock group U2. Actually, he looked the way Bono would if he had chosen to become a successful doctor in Dublin or Cork, or right here in Los Angeles. And that was one of the gentleman's most private secrets. The women almost always chose him. Will Rudolph wandered into Nativity, which was one of the currently hot A-rated shops on Melrose. Nativity was the place to buy a designer bustier, a mink-lined leather jacket, an antique Hamilton wristwatch. As he watched the supple young bodies in the busy store, he was thinking of Hollywood's A-parties, its A-restaurants, even its A-stores. The city was completely hung up on its own pecking order. He understood status perfectly. Yes, he did. Dr. Will Rudolph was the most powerful man in Los Angeles. He reveled in the secure feeling it gave him, the reassuring front-page news stories that told him he truly existed, that he wasn't a twisted figment of his own imagination. The gentleman was in control of an entire city, and an influential city at that. He strolled near an irresistible blonde woman, all decked out in 20-something finery. She was idly looking at Incan jewelry, seemingly bored with the whole deal. Her life. She was by far the most striking woman inside Nativity, but that wasn't what attracted him to her. She was absolutely untouchable. She sent off a clear signal, even in a pricey store filled mostly with other attractive 20-something females. I'm untouchable. Don't even think about it. You're unworthy, no matter who you are. He felt thunder roar through his chest. He wanted to scream out inside the loud, crowded boutique, I can have you. I can. You have no idea, but I'm the gentleman caller. The blonde woman had a full and arrogant mouth. She understood that no lipstick or eyeshadow was necessary for her. She was slender and narrow-waisted, elegant in her own Southern California way. She wore a faded cotton vest, wrap skirt, and color-blocked moccasins. Her tan was even and perfect, healthy-looking. She finally glanced his way. A glancing blow, Dr. Will Rudolph thought. Lord, what eyes! He wanted them all to himself. He wanted to roll them through his fingers, carry them around for a good luck charm. What she saw was a tall and slender, interesting-looking man in his early 30s. He had broad shoulders and a build like an athlete or even a dancer. His sun-lightened brown curls were tied back in a ponytail. He had Irish boy blue eyes. Will Rudolph also wore a slightly wrinkled white medical jacket over his very traditional Oxford blue shirt and hospital-approved striped reps tie. He had on expensive Dr. Martens boots, indestructible footwear. He seemed so sure of himself. She spoke first. She chose him, didn't she? Her blue eyes were calm and deep, untroubled, very sexy in their confidence. She played with one of her gold-plated earrings. Was it something I didn't say? He started to laugh, genuinely delighted that she had an adult sense of humor about the dating charade. This was going to be a fun night, he thought. He knew it. I'm sorry. I usually don't stare. At least I never get caught blatantly doing it.